Coming to you from deep inside the bowels of a great big empty. Get ready for another episode of The Home Defense Show with Skip Coryell.
Hello, American families. Welcome to this week's episode of The Home Defense Show. I'm your host, Skip Coryell. And if you love your family, care about them deeply, and want to learn how to protect them in every facet of your life, then you come to the right place. Oh, folks, we got a great show for you today. It is a political show, an election show. We have got elections coming up very, very soon, and you need to know, gosh, who should I vote for to protect my Second Amendment rights? And we'll be having Joel Fulton on in segments 2 and 3 from Freedom Firearms in Battle Creek, Michigan. And Joel will be telling us his version of who we should vote for. And I think you're going to like it. It'll be a lot helpful. If you're one of those people who kind of wait till the last minute to figure out who they should vote for, this is a show that you don't want to miss. Well, what is going on in my life? So many things are happening right now. I'll just hit the highlights here. About a week ago, I published the fourth and final book in the God Virus series. That's the Military Action Apocalyptic Adventure series. That book was The Blind Man's Rage, and that's on Amazon right now in Kindle and paperback, and doing quite well, by the way. But I have just recently released the complete God Virus series, all 4 books in between one cover. Front and back cover, it is, about 1.25 inches thick, 500 and some pages long. If you want to get a deal, go on Amazon and check out the God Virus Complete series. And boy, you can pick that up, all 4 books in one, for probably a third of the price that you would pay if you bought all 4 of them separately. So I think that's a good deal. And the story is fantastic, if I do say so myself. What am I working on next? Well, I'm thinking real seriously about a devotional, something inspirational, concealed carry for Christians, so to speak. So I'm working on something like that right now. It's still eating at the inside of my brain. And then I'm also working on revamping Civilian Combat to make that a little more thorough, more better, maybe adding another 70, 80 pages to that book as well. And I'm hunting like crazy. Since I got back from vacation 4 or 5 days ago, I've been out there hunting like crazy, and I tell you, it's like the deer know where I'm going to be and when I'm going to be there, which is very disappointing to me because the end of October, beginning of November, we all know what that is. That's the rut. That's when these big bucks are at their dumbest, their stupidest. They're out there walking around in the woods like Bill Clinton, looking for his next conquest. And I'm not seeing them. So I'm going to have to back up, reevaluate my tactics, and see what I can do to take my big buck. Actually, right about now, I'd settle for a little buck. Any kind of a buck. Even a doe. Just give me a big deer. Just walk out in front of my crossbow, and I will take you down. All right. But I'll try that again this afternoon. Well, we just got back from vacation several days ago, like I said, and we went down to Missouri to visit my son and his 5 kids, my 5 grandkids. Went down, had a great time with them. And then we went up to northwest Wisconsin, almost to Minnesota, and we visited my daughter, Marissa, and her 6 children. So I have 11 grandkids now from the first 2. And, oh, gosh, I had a great time, but typically I don't like to travel all that much. I prefer to stay home, to sit here out in my recording studio and my office next door, out in my garage, work on my books, radio stuff, teach classes. I'm a homebody, and that drives my wife crazy because she loves to travel. And she usually gets what she wants, oddly enough, because next month we're going to Oregon, all the way to the Pacific Ocean. And I got to tell you, I love being there. I just don't like getting there, if you know what I mean. Being a bit of a security nut, I'm always a little jumpy, because we're on the road with my wife and 3 kids, small kids, and we drive through the night. We'll be stopping at rest stops and gas stations in the middle of the night, and it just, my nerves get stretched tighter than a gnat's butt stretched over a barrel. So, but hey, we did good this time around. My 12-year-old Cedar did a great job helping me out with security. And Phoenix and Amethyst helped him out as well. We'd be at a rest stop or whatever, and I have to stick my head inside the back of the Honda Pilot under the hatch there, and I'm digging around for stuff, and I say, "Who's got my back?" And one of the kids would always yell out, I do, Daddy. I got your back." And sometimes they would even post outside the car, almost at a position of attention, watching for bad guys. So it's really cute to see them like that, working together. There was one time we were at a park down there in Missouri, and Sarah couldn't get the kids to come in when they were supposed to, because it was time to leave. So I yelled out, "Fall in!" And all 3 of them ran, and they snapped to attention behind me. And I called Cadence, and we marched back to the car. So, hey, George Patton, he's got nothing on me. Anyways, hey, before we run out of time in this segment, let's go ahead and let's get to some news, all kinds of news out there. I've got this one off Fox News. Pilot arrested at Florida airport with loaded gun in carry-on, police say. Authorities say an airline pilot was arrested at a Florida airport after a loaded gun was found in his carry-on suitcase. The news press reports Brian Andrew McTemis of Minnetonka, Minnesota, was arrested Friday at Southwest Florida International Airport. A Lee County Port Authority arrest report says the 54-year-old Sun Country Airlines pilot was arrested when a Transportation Security Administration agent, TSA guys, always one of my favorites. I always call them Dr. Jollyfingers. They put on those rubber gloves, and boy, I just cringe. Found a loaded pistol in his suitcase. The report says McTemis has a permit to carry the gun in Minnesota, but that it wasn't valid in Florida. Well, that's too bad. The TSA allows unloaded firearms in locked containers only as checked baggage. Boy, do I know that. Airline spokeswoman Kirsten Wenker confirmed McTemis is a pilot, but declined further comment, citing privacy reasons. And they might be a little embarrassed. McTemis was released on $5,000 bond. Jail records didn't show whether he had an attorney. Well, if he didn't, he will soon have one, I'm sure. Listen, my take on this, why the heck don't we just let the guy carry the gun on the plane? I mean, why do we not trust this man? It's like every time you get in an airplane, there's like 100, 200, 300 people that are trusting their lives to take you up in the air, 20,000 feet, and fly across the whole country and land you safely. You trust him to do that, but you don't trust him to carry a gun in his briefcase so that he can protect you against hijackers? Come on. That is so absurd. That is so stupid. It's like enormously stupid and brain dead. Come on, folks. Jeez, if he really wanted to hurt someone, would he need to use a gun? These mass shooters, what do? They go out, they shoot as many people as they can, and they blow their heads off. Well, if you want to be real efficient about it, Mr. McTemis, the airline pilot, just wait till he's got a big load of 250 people on board, and then say, okay, now I'll kill as many people as I can. And he would crash dive that thing into, the city. And I bet he could get a couple thousand people that way. I think that was taught to us on 9/11. So you trust him with those 200 lives, but you don't trust him to carry a pistol for defense? That's ridiculous. That's stupid, and someone needs their pee-pee whacked. All right, before I get all worked up here, we better move on here. All right, well, the show wouldn't be complete if we didn't talk about this latest mass shooter at the synagogue in Pittsburgh. Jewish doctors and nurses saved wounded synagogue gunman even as he spewed hate. Robert Bowers, suspect in Pittsburgh synagogue shooting to appear in a suspect. I know he's innocent until proven guilty, but how many people saw him do this? When someone confesses to a crime and it's on videotape or there are 100 witnesses, just shoot him in the head. Just take out one bullet and say, okay, you say you killed all those people. 100 other people say you killed 11 people. We're going to take your word for it. I don't want to insult you by calling you a liar. Here's your bullet. Bang, you're dead. Wouldn't that save us a lot of money? Gosh, hundreds of thousands of dollars and a lot of time? Man, it's cut and dried. Jewish doctors and nurses at Allegheny General Hospital in Pittsburgh put their personal feelings aside to help save the life of the man who allegedly claimed. He claimed it. What is all this allegedly garbage? He wanted to kill all the Jews as he opened fire at a synagogue and murdered 11 worshipers. Robert Bowers, 46, was shot multiple times. Well, he was shot multiple times, but he wasn't shot enough times. And taken to the hospital. In addition to killing 8 men and 3 women, he wounded 6 other people, including 4 police officers, before surrendering Saturday. If I was one of those cops, my only regret would be my poor marksmanship. I go, man, I should have went to the range at least one more time so that I could make that headshot when it really counts. That's sad. That's sad. Sad that all those people died, but slightly more sad is that he didn't die. I must be in a bad mood today. Another nurse, whose father is a rabbi, came in from a mass casualty drill and took care of this gentleman. Gentleman? Oh, gosh. No, he's a racist SOB. Cohen was one of the first people on the scene. He lives in the neighborhood and heard gunfire from his house. I was standing there, and you could start hearing very quickly what was going on, he said. Just like the first responders who rushed into danger, Cohen credits his doctors, nurses, and staff for stepping up. Are they really first responders? Who got there first? Who was there first? Well, the people who died and the shooter. Those are the first responders, okay? The people who respond first are the ones who are already there. The police and fire, they're great guys, but they get there second. We are here to take care of sick people. We're not here to judge you. We're not here to ask, do you have insurance or do you not have insurance? We're here to take care of people who need our help. I think it's a little different, not having insurance and then going out and shooting 11 people, killing 11 people. That's not in the same ballpark. That's not even in the same universe as, do you have insurance? My gosh. Cohen says he and Bowers had a brief conversation at the hospital. When I stopped in, I asked him how he was doing. Was he in pain? And he said, no, he was fine. Yeah, no, I'm fine. By the way, are you Jewish? Jeez. Cohen says Bowers then asked him who he was. I said, I'm Dr. Cohen, president of the hospital. Then I turned around and left. He said, the FBI agent who was guarding him said, I don't know if I could have done that. And I said, if you were in my shoes, I'm sure you could. I don't know if I could. Bowers was discharged from the hospital Monday morning and arrived at the federal courthouse in downtown Pittsburgh around noon. He faces 11 counts of criminal homicide, 6 counts of aggravated assault, and 13 counts of ethnic intimidation. After the 11 murders, does the ethnic intimidation really matter? This whole thing about, but that was a hate crime. He should be judged more severely. How many love crimes are there? When you murder 11 people, shoot 4 cops, is that a love crime? Is it a hate crime? Is it an apathy crime? They're all hate crimes. Jeez, oh, Pete's gets in my craw. In addition to federal counts that include weapons offenses and hate crime charges, federal prosecutors are expected to seek the death penalty against him. Yeah, I'd seek it against him too. I don't like violence, but you just got to ask yourself, if we let this guy live, what else is he going to do? If he ever gets out, what else is he going to do? If we don't kill him, what are we teaching people? That, yeah, you can do this, and we're not going to kill you. You won't pay the ultimate penalty. It's time to start executing these people. Maybe I'll talk about that in segment 4. Nasty mood I'm in today. But I will lighten up. Don't worry. Hey, Joel Fulton always lifts my mood, and he will be coming up just in a couple of minutes here. We got a 2-minute break. Go ahead and check out our sponsors, elitefirearms.us, and get that handgun that you need to protect your family. And then also go to firearmslegal.com/MidwestTactical and protect your family from the legal justice system. Okay, folks, we'll be back in segment 2 with Joel Fulton from Freedom Firearms. We'll be talking about the election coming up here soon. Very important election. This is Skip Coryell on the Home Defense Show. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back.
My name is CJ Coryell. Welcome to the Home Defense Show with my dad, Skip Coryell. Don't go nowhere. We'll be right back.
This is Skip Coryell from the Home Defense Show, and I want you to have the very best handgun that money can buy. And that's why we recommend you visit Larry Jackson at Elite Firearms and Training. As a concealed carry instructor, I see people every week out on the range with guns they can't shoot properly because they didn't know what to buy. That will never happen at Elite Firearms and Training. Larry Jackson will personally fit you with your very own personal defense pistol. So call Larry Jackson today at 616-299-8715 or visit elitefirearms.us.
This is Colonel Danny Gillum. I host Frontlines of Freedom, a weekly syndicated military talk radio show. One of my co-hosts is Skip Coryell, the host of this show. We cover things that impact military and veteran communities, and we do it from the veteran's perspective. The show is broadcast across the nation and is also available as a podcast on our website, frontlinesoffreedom.com. Please join Skip and me weekly on Frontlines of Freedom.
Okay, folks, welcome back to the Home Defense Show. This is your host, Skip Coryell. We are speaking today with Joel Fulton from Freedom Firearms in Battle Creek, Michigan. Joel, welcome back to the Home Defense Show.
Skip, glad to be here. Always good to be on the show.
All right. Now, Joel, we've got an election coming up, so I wanted to, and I think it's a pretty important election. It seems like these days there aren't any unimportant elections. Everyone always comes on the air on talk radio and they say, this is the most important election of our time, or the most important election in the history of America. What do you think about that?
I actually was thinking about that very thing just the other day and had a conversation with somebody surrounding that idea and that topic, because I can remember back in the day where elections didn't seem, quote unquote, this dramatic or this important or earth-shattering, or it's going to change the course of our nation for the next X number of years. And I think a lot of that has been driven by the ideological vitriol that seems like it's dividing our nation right now. In other words, I think there's a lot of us that are still in the middle. Yeah. But I think there's a far left and a really far right. And I think both of them are extreme positions. And I don't think we had that, say, in the 70s or the 80s yet. I don't think that had developed. And so even though maybe your political party didn't win, it wasn't necessarily a tragedy for the nation. It wasn't changing the course of what our nation was set up as. They were still fairly well working within the framework, and they were still working across the aisle and working together for good, basically good public policy. And I don't think you find that anymore. I think the public policy that we're looking at tends to be extremist positions. And obviously, my perspective is that it's not so far extreme on the conservative side as it is on the socialism side. Because, I mean, after all, socialism has worked in every single place we've ever tried it so far in history, right?
Not on this planet.
I think that's really the extreme division that seems to be playing out in our media, whether it be social, whether it be in the news media and the traditional news media that we commonly think of. A lot of that is really causing the extremist positions and why each election seems to be earth-shattering.
Yeah. Well, you know, I remember, I mean, growing up, 40, 50 years ago, and it just seemed like, you know, Democrats and Republicans, they could sit down and they could talk to each other. They could talk about hunting, fishing, you know, politics, and it wasn't that big a deal. I mean, I remember, you know, listening to my dad talk with the neighbors about politics, and, you know, back then, I mean, he was a union guy, he was a Democrat, and, you know, they might be Republican, but, you know, they might disagree on a few things, but it wasn't so earth-shattering. It wasn't this polarization now where, you know, I mean,
right.
now you go out there, you're wearing a MAGA hat or a Trump T-shirt, and boy, that's like, you know, Democrats are justified in using deadly force against you simply because you've angered them, and or vice versa. I mean, you know, this mad bomber that just took off in Florida, yesterday or day before. It's just, it's crazy out there, and I think it's affecting how people live their everyday lives.
I think for some people it's affecting their world and how they perceive it and view it. I mean, not me. I'm going to do what I can where I'm at with what I've got. I'm going to do my duty. I'm going to go vote. I'm going to research the positions, and I'm going to make sure that for as much as I possibly can, I'm voting for candidates that are going to adhere to the way my constitutions were set up, whether it be my Constitution of the United States of America or my Constitution here in the state of Michigan.
Yeah. Well, Joel, let's talk about the state of Michigan first then. Shall we start with the top? Shall we start at the governorship, the governor's race?
Oh, that's the top for you. I'm sorry. I thought the senator's race was the top.
Well, we'll start with the governor race.
Sure.
People not going to Washington. How's that sound?
I'll be honest with you. You look at the two that are running, they're both lifelong politicians. Bill Schuette's been in politics, you know, since day one practically. Generally been on the right side. He's worked really hard. I think for the most part, he's done the right things at the right time. He's been fantastic for firearms rights. He gave us the ability to purchase and own silencers here in the state of Michigan, piggybacking off the decision that Mike Cox made that reversed Frank Kelly's decision to make it so that we couldn't own most machine guns. And Mike Cox reversed that decision, which oftentimes you don't see attorney general's positions reversed. They tried to stay fairly consistent. So Mike Cox did that, and then Bill Schuette furthered that. So I think he's done a good job. He's put out several opinions. It took one opinion, because Michigan's firearms laws are convoluted, it took 4 years to get an opinion on registration, and if I have a concealed pistol license for another state, if I actually am subject to that. So I think there's a lot of things that have come out very good from the Attorney General's office. I think Bill will do a great job as governor. Gretchen Whitmer would be a nightmare for firearms rights. I've dealt with her for 14 years in the legislature. She was adamantly opposed to the Castle Doctrine / Stand Your Ground law, Michigan Self-Defense Act that was passed in 2006. And she was absolutely shrill about it. And the Republican side, there was one Republican senator that just put a verbal slap down on her in committee that was, you should have been there to behold it. It was amazing. It really was.
Well, so you're saying if you're voting strictly on the Second Amendment, You would vote for Bill Schuette over Gretchen Whitmer then?
Absolutely. And if you're talking about the economy, I'm not sure Gretchen Whitmer's ever seen a tax or a regulation she doesn't like. She'd be Jennifer Granholm for the economy all over again.
Oh, wow.
And we saw what 8 years of that did to Michigan.
Yeah. Well, Joel, what do you say to, I was raised in a Democrat home, my family. Dad was a big union guy, and it was like, hey, you vote Democrat, to save your job, and it seemed to be like a one-issue thing. You vote to save your job. What do you say to the diehard Democrats who are also gun owners, might even be CPL holders, who are voting for Whitmer?
I would say to them, look at the 62nd House District race, the race between Dave Morgan and Jim Hodsma. Now, 62nd District covers most of Battle Creek and a lot of Calhoun County. The Teamsters actually have endorsed the Republican candidate, Dave Morgan.
Wow, really? I didn't know.
Oh, yeah, they were down here. The big union bosses, all of them were down here at a fundraiser for Dave, said absolutely wonderful things about him. Dave's been a union guy his entire life, and he used to be a Democrat, and he realized the Democrat Party no longer agreed with most of his positions in life. And even though he was a union guy, he said the Republican Party is more in line, and they're moving the economy. He began to talk to union, and he talked to business, and he said, hey, look, we are not at odds here. There is no reason for labor and businesses to be diametrically opposed. And Dave Morgan is endorsed both by the Michigan Chamber of Commerce and the Teamsters Union.
Wow. Yeah,
so what I think you're seeing is you're seeing a lot more bridging of the gaps, and I think you're seeing a lot more understanding where unions are going, look, when the economy's good, we're at work, and that's what labor needs. They need work. Look, in the 1980s, Ronald Reagan, the unions loved Ronald Reagan because he moved the economy.
Yeah.
When it boils right down to it, it's about paychecks. And what has Bill Schuette been talking about the entire time? Talking about paychecks.
Yeah. Well, so it seems in the immortal words of Bob Dylan, the times they are a-changing. You can be a good union person and still vote for a Republican here.
Absolutely.
Well, that's good to know. That's good to know. All right, so, well, let me see. I'll X out Whitmer here. Not going to vote for her. All right, what Attorney General?
Oh, Attorney General, without question, is Tom Leonard. He's actually leading in the polls right now. And Dana Nessel is so far left, it's screwbally. There is no way. And he's been endorsed by, I think, somewhere around 40 county sheriffs and that number or more of county prosecutors. He's absolutely the choice of law enforcement. He's essentially going to be a chief law enforcement official in Michigan, and that's the guy you want leading us. This guy is a solid Christian guy. He's got more integrity than I've seen in just about anybody before. The man walks the walk, talks the talk. He's a true public servant. He's super humble. I've met him multiple times and chatted with him multiple times. I'm actually his campaign chair here in Calhoun County, and the guy's just absolutely phenomenal. It's hard to get more excited about a candidate, save one that we're going to talk about here in a few minutes.
Well, how could Tom Leonard advance Second Amendment rights here in Michigan?
There's going to be a lot of decisions that are going to be coming forward here pretty soon because there's going to be a lot of questions asked. I have no idea who might be asking those questions.
Okay. I think I have one idea. But
I have questions. I have questions locked, loaded, and ready to go. I got one going on right now that is going to probably put a hurting on registration on the whole anyway. But there's a lot of things that understand that sometimes legislatively it is hard to get things to go through because of the fact that politicians have to face re-election. And so they're sticking their fingers in the wind sometimes. They shouldn't be. They should be doing the right thing. But the reality is you're still looking to get reelected.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're looking at things that can come out of a bureaucracy, it's easier to disclaim direct responsibility for those things. And somebody that is going to be in charge of a bureaucracy as large as the Attorney General's office can direct some of that. And that can get us some positive Second Amendment stuff. We've already moved a lot of stuff forward in the Second Amendment arena because of a good attorney general like Bill Schuette, like Mike Cox. And now I think Tom Leonard is probably going to be one of the finest attorney generals, and I can say this in my entire lifetime because there's only been 4 in my lifetime.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now,
in my lifetime, my entire lifetime, and I'm 46 years old. I'm not as old as you are yet, but...
Well, I hope that someday you are as old as I am.
But the truth of the matter is, even in your lifetime, you've only had 4.
Yeah.
You and I have seen the same 4. Because you weren't born before Frank Kelly became Attorney General.
I remember him. I do. Joel,
he was the longest-serving Attorney General of any state in the Union in the history of the United States.
Wow. Joel, when it comes to reciprocity, can we go any further on reciprocity or not?
God, I wish we could, but we can't until other states change their laws. I'm on that constantly. I'm always watching to see if other states have changed their laws so that we gain some more reciprocity. But right now, as of Mike Cox and Bill Schuette, we have maximum reciprocity that we can gain in the United States.
Wow. Well, that's a shame. Whatever happened to that national reciprocity bill? I mean, it was supposed to be a slam dunk, but it didn't.
Yeah, well, when you have mass shootings and then, you get all the vitriol in the news and they start slamming Second Amendment rights and anybody who owns guns because one guy shot up a bunch of people, legislation dies fast. Nobody wants to talk about it.
That's too bad. Well,
it is too bad.
All right. Well, let me see. I think we're about out of time for this segment, so we'll have to come back here. You said your brother Jared is around. Make sure your brother Jared knows that if I come up with something really interesting, like hunting or tactical stuff.
That's what he said. He said, tell Skip to call me when there's something fun to talk about.
Well, yeah. For some people,
that's kind of an issue, right? We look at this stuff a lot of times like it's not fun, and we don't enjoy politics, and we don't want to get involved in it. And that's really the thing. If we don't, it doesn't matter if we get involved with it. It's going to involve itself with us. So we better play a part.
That's for sure. Either we get involved or they get involved. And, it's like a baseball game. One team shows up, it's a forfeit, right? And you can't have that.
Correct.
Okay, folks, we've got a 2-minute break here. While we are away, go ahead and check out elitefirearms.us, and then go ahead and check out firearmslegal.com/Midwest Tactical. When we come back, we're going to talk about some more candidates, some more races with Joel Fulton from Freedom Firearms. Okay, this is Skip Coryell on the Home Defense Show. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back.
This is Felix Coryell on the Home Defense Show. Always use guns safely and wisely. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Hey, folks. I want to tell you about my book, Civilian Combat, the Concealed Carry Book. More and more people across the country are seeing the dangers in society and are deciding to carry concealed to protect themselves and their families. My new book lays it out step by step. It'll teach you how to protect and defend the ones you love. Get the benefit of 17 years of teaching experience and a lifetime of training for this important role in society and in your family. You can get Civilian Combat real easy. Just go to Amazon.com, search on Skip Coryell Civilian Combat, and it'll pop right up there. Don't put it off any longer. Get Civilian Combat, the Concealed Carry Book by yours truly, Skip Coryell.
Wouldn't it be wonderful if life was like the movies and the good guys always won? In today's world, if you're forced to use your firearm to protect yourself, you will need protection. Firearms Legal Protection is here for you. FLP provides you with seasoned, experienced attorneys that handle your criminal and civil matters as a result of you protecting yourself. FirearmsLegal.com provides its members with uncapped attorney's fees, bail bond protection, and coverage in all 50 states. We are not a reimbursement plan. You can access uncapped attorney's fees for as low as $10 a month. Firearms Legal members are provided with educational services, training videos, and access to our vast national attorney network. While you're protecting yourself, let Firearms Legal protect you.
Listen up, folks. This is important. There are plenty of legal protection services out there, but none will protect you as well as Firearms Legal Protection.
This is the one I use and the only one I recommend. Visit firearmslegal.com/Midwest Tactical and protect your family now.
Okay, folks, welcome back to the Home Defense Show. This is your host, Skip Coryell. We're speaking with Joel Fulton, co-owner of Freedom Firearms in Battle Creek. Joel, you mentioned in the last segment, you hinted at someone that you wanted to talk about. Who was that?
Look, I'm going to tell you, if you have not heard of him, if you have not gone out on the internet and found some of his speeches that he has been doing throughout the state and canvassing throughout the state, you are missing out on one of the most exciting candidates for office that I have seen probably in close to my lifetime. The guy is a true statesman. He understands the Constitution. In fact, he was standing in my shop several months ago, back early on. It was probably January, February time frame-ish. And there was a young lady in my shop with her dad. She was about 8, 9 years old, and she was homeschooled. And so John James and John James is who I'm talking about. John James talked to her and said, what did she know about the Constitution? And he asked her about some things about the Constitution, and then he asked her about states' rights. He asked her all these things about the Constitution, and he asked her, where do your rights come from? And she said, they come from God. And he said, that's absolutely correct. He said, they're simply guaranteed by a Constitution, correct? She said, absolutely. So, look, point by point by point, the guy gets it. He understands what we were founded on. He understands freedom. He understands his role is to limit government, not necessarily to expand it. His job is to make sure that he operates within the framework of the Constitution. I think he's amazing. If you listen to him speak, you listen to him talk about public policy, it is just amazing. He points out the hypocrisy in the left, and I think he's making a real impact. He is surging in the polls against Stabenow. I don't think Stabenow has ever been so scared in all her life of losing political office. And I think we got a real chance to put somebody in office that's not just going to be an office holder and told how to vote. I think we got a guy that is from the outside that is going to go to Washington, and he's going to stand up and he's going to say, hey, this is the way things ought to be. And he isn't going to care whether it's Republican or Democrats. If it's the wrong thing, he's going to stand against it. And that's exactly the kind of guy I want in office.
Well, yeah, me too. In fact, when you started describing this unknown person, I thought, I bet he's talking about John James. And, hey, I was right. Tell us a little bit about John James personally. What's his background?
He's a U.S. Army combat veteran, flew Apache helicopters. In fact, there was a guy out at Arlene's Truck Stop where I own 10% interest in a restaurant. I don't know if you knew that or not.
No, I didn't know that.
Out there at Arlene's Truck Stop. Yep. Great food out there. Strongly encourage you to go out there. Well, but Jeremy, the owner out there, had put some John James signs out there. And one of the guys that was serving and doing his guard duty walked in and happened to say something to Jeremy. He said, I'm really glad to see those signs out there. And Jeremy said, well, why is that? He said, that guy saved my life.
Really? Wow.
He said, we were on the ground, and those helicopters came in, and he saved my life.
Oh, that's great.
And I'm like, that's pretty freaking awesome. And that's the kind of stuff where you're going, look, this guy led combat missions. This guy understands what it is to lead men into battle and bring them back home.
Yeah.
He understands the importance of life and death, and he understands that the decisions that we make at a governmental level affect real people's lives.
Yeah.
Whether it be we're talking about combat, whether we're talking about the wars we choose to engage in, or whether we're talking about the economy here at home, he's built a business. He expanded the business from, I don't know, it was like $35 or $40 million in annual sales that they were doing in an automotive business in Detroit with his family to over $100 million when he came back home. The guy knows how to do things. He knows how to get things done.
He's a young guy, isn't he? He's in like 38, 39, something like that?
Yeah, he's younger than I am. He's not, I think he's barely old enough to be a senator, right?
Yeah, you're right.
How old do you have to be a senator?
What is it? Is it 35 or 30?
It's 35.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
You have to be 35 years old in order to be a senator of the United States of America. He's barely old enough. But the guy's got life experience.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah, for sure. If he's been in combat, let's face it, if he goes to Washington, D.C., he's going to be in combat. It's a different kind of combat, but boy, every bit as nasty, maybe even worse.
It's worse, right? Because we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world.
Yeah. Yeah, well, all right. So I put a check mark next to John James. Anything you want to say about...
Oh, if there were 3 columns, right? There should be 3 columns there. There should be a yes, no, and a hell yes.
Okay. We'll say hell yes then, okay? Anything, why should we get rid of Stabenow?
Oh, she's horrendous. I mean, for one thing, she took my A-10s along with Jennifer Granholm out of Battle Creek Air National Guard Base and put them over at Selfridge, where there's not one of them running now.
Yeah.
So it's for that alone I hate her.
Well, we have that in common because I used to know the squadron commander there, and he flew A-10s over in Iraq, and I used him as a consultant on my novel We Hold These Truths, and he gave me a tour of those A-10s, and
Are you talking about Colonel Seidel?
No, Dave Morris. He was a lieutenant colonel.
Oh, okay. Yep.
Sure. And to walk up next to those things and stand next to those things, they're huge. How do they even get in the air? I was just amazed that those things even
They're
fly.
a flying gun. They designed a gun so big that they couldn't move it around very easy, and they said, let's put wings on it and fly it.
Well, they did it.
Even the landing gear is offset so that it's not in front, so it's offset from the gun that's flying around.
Yes, well.
I used to guard those at night. I did the 3rd shift out there, security, and I used to be out there on the flight line, and when I stand right in front of the plane, the bottom barrel of the gun is at eye level with me. So I've looked straight down the barrel of those things.
Well, they're like a Timex wax. They take a licking and they keep on ticking. And they deliver a punch,
to shoot them down.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, well, hey, that's one more reason to get rid of Debbie Stabenow. Like I needed another one, right? All right. All right, who else do we want to vote for?
Your Secretary of State is going to be pivotally important. You really want Mary Trader Lane? She really understands the importance of the integrity of elections. She understands the importance of cleaning up the voter rolls and making sure that those voter rolls stay clean, making sure that people who are dead aren't voting, making sure that everybody who is voting is legally registered to vote. She understands those things. She understands how to use technology. Protecting information at the Secretary of State level is important because that's where all of our personal information is. Identity theft would be huge, right? She understands that. She's worked in the corporate field for over 20 years with cybersecurity, and I couldn't think of a better candidate. What becomes even more important is the proposals, which if we get to them, there's a proposal that talks about voters, not politicians, and to be honest, it seems like a good idea, but the way it's going to be implemented, it won't change it won't change that gerrymandering happens. What it will do is it will put it to an unelected, unaccountable body as opposed to elected officials that you can hold accountable. And those unelected officials are going to not only be paid $400,000 over the course of 10 years for doing relatively nothing that isn't being done already for free, but they are going to be appointed by the Secretary of State's office.
Oh, wow.
So if that proposal passes, you're going to want somebody that has some integrity in appointing that board.
Yeah. Well, do we want that proposal?
Me personally, I'm voting no on 2.
Yeah.
Proposal 2 is a solid no.
Yeah. Proposal 2. Are there 3 boxes there?
Oh, yeah, that was absolutely, unequivocally no, not in a million years.
Okay. Yeah, well, it doesn't sound very accountable at all. But, Secretary of State's office, I mean, they can affect the Second Amendment as well. I mean, they
Sure.
have our information, right?
Yes. Yep.
Without a doubt.
And they coordinate now with the county clerk's offices and getting our, beautiful pictures on our licenses and that sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so no on Proposal 2. Yes on Mary Trader Lane. Yes on John James for Senator. Yes on Tom Leonard for Attorney General. And yes on Bill Schuette for Governor. What does that leave, Joel?
For your statewide offices, that's pretty much everything. I mean, you're going to find, obviously, your officials for your, board of governors and your university regents and that sort of thing. Typically, I'm pretty solidly in the Republican camp, so that's kind of where I'm at. And then your local elections, your House races, your Senate races locally, those are important. I think, I don't know where most of your audience is, but I got to imagine some of it's there in your county. So obviously for the 19th District State Senate, Dr. John Vizon has been an amazing representative for us here in the 62nd District. We were sad to lose him as representative. We'll be delighted to have him as senator to replace Senator Mike Knopf, who did an amazing job for us as well over the course of his almost, 18 years in public service at the state level. And he did another 8 or 9 before that at the county commission level, and he was 25 years a state police officer. And he was a state police post commander. He's just had an entire lifetime of public service. So, pretty amazing guy, and I think Dr. John Vizon will fill those shoes pretty well. Like I mentioned, the 62nd District, that's Dave Morgan. And what House District are you up there? I think you got Julie Calley, don't you?
Oh, that would be Berry County. I'm over in Allegan County.
Oh, you're in Allegan County, okay.
Yeah, well, I'm like 3 miles over the, past the Berry County line. I was thinking, we got a couple minutes left here. Everyone that you're mentioning, they all appear to be Republicans. Are there any Democrats out there that are good for the Second Amendment?
There's some at the local level. A friend of mine probably said it best. And that is, he said, Republicans hold office, Democrats wield power. And if you don't vote lockstep with the Democrat Party, you don't get to be part of the Democrat Party very long. They will ostracize you. They will kick you out. You will be gone. Republicans are, I think, a lot more tolerant. A lot of times, I know we throw out terms like rhino, Republican in name only. And we tend to be more tolerant of positions. And I think that probably stems from how the parties were formed in the first place. If you recall how the parties were formed in the first place, the Democrat Party has always been the Democrat Party. But the Republican Party was a conglomeration of parties that came together and formed one party, and they had one single purpose in mind at the time. I don't know if you recall, back in the year 1854, I think it was 1854, and it started right here in Jackson, Michigan, right? Under the Oaks. Yeah. And that was the formation of the Republican Party, and their sole purpose was to rid the country of slavery.
Yeah.
That was the sole founding of the Republican Party. 6 years later, the Republican Party had their first presidential candidate, and he won after some unsuccessful attempts, but President Lincoln took office. And the first thing we did with our first president in office that we got elected was we got rid of slavery.
Yeah, and then after that, the Democrats took credit for it.
Well, they did eventually, and how they did that whole bait and switch, it really kind of, what really was hard was, again, economic factors and how things happened during the Great Depression. And minorities were severely disadvantaged during that time. They were already disadvantaged, and a down economy hurt even worse. And they got promises from the Democrats that they'd help them out, only to continue enslaving them in dependency, which is exactly what John James has been talking about, is if you've got a government taking care of you, you're still enslaved in your independency.
Yeah.
If you want freedom, you need to be independent.
Yep. Joel, before we go, what do you think's going to happen? I want your prediction on the national level. Who's going to take the House? Is it going to be the Democrats or the Republicans?
Traditionally, when you have a controversial president, doesn't matter what party, that has been swept into office, and they become controversial, then in the midterms, the House flips to the other party. That has been the traditional thing that we as Americans have done. However, having said that, I think there are a lot of people that see what Trump has accomplished, even though they don't necessarily like his demeanor and his mannerisms and how he goes about it sometimes. I think that sticks in some of our craws. I think on the whole, his results and his accomplishments are good. Mm-hmm. And so I think a lot of people distance themselves because they don't want to be associated with his mannerisms and his presentation, but they like his results. And I think you're going to find that you can't trust the polls. I think there are people that are going to vote in support of the president's policies, and that means keeping his party in a position where he can accomplish stuff. Wow. Because they know he can't accomplish it without it. But I don't think they're telling pollsters that. And you're already seeing polls closing right now, and Republicans 2 weeks ago were behind by double digits, and they're now surging to within the margin of error. And I think a lot of those polls are reflective of the pollsters' desire to save face if they end up being wrong.
Which happens right? Quite often, yeah. For sure.
I think you saw a meltdown after 2016. Nobody saw that coming.
Yeah.
But the meltdown that you're going to see from the liberalism and the far left after the midterm elections is going to be epic. I think Republicans are going to win. I don't think it's going to be by a huge margin, but I do think they're going to win.
Yeah, I think it's going to be close. I really do, for all the reasons that you mentioned, but I think we're going to have a bit of a replay of what we had 2 years ago. Hillary was supposed to win in a landslide, and nobody saw it coming. I think that there will be some Trump effect, and that people are kind of playing their cards, holding their cards close to their vest on this. So.
Absolutely. Early voting is coming out huge for Republicans.
Yeah, well, that's encouraging. That really is. What about the Senate? What do you see happening there?
Just based on what's there, that's not going to switch over. That's really not as much in play as what the House is. You're talking about the entire House is running, and only a third of the Senate runs at the U.S. level every 2 years. And that's to keep consistency in that body. It's supposed to be a higher chamber. And even at the state level, I'm seeing movement toward the Republican side. And I think when I'm out there talking to people, I hear people talking about Republican values and conservative values more so than I hear socialist or liberal values. And it's not because I work in a gun shop. I find myself in a lot of different arenas. I don't live in a bubble, and I'm seeing it everywhere I go.
Yeah. Well, your county there, Joel, you're more of an urban environment than I live in. You live in the big city, by my standards.
Sure, so. Absolutely.
And
in fact, we're pretty representative of the Midwest. And I had just finished participating in a study by Columbia University, which initially I know you're going, that is a bastion of liberalism. Why would you even step foot there? Because I believe they're trying to be pretty honest about what they were looking for and what they were doing. It was actually a study called Facing Whiteness, and they did several interviews. And one of the things they said about Battle Creek, the reason they chose Battle Creek is because we were very representative of overall demographics throughout the Midwest. And they chose our town. They did several interviews here. It was quite a fun study, and it's actually online now.
Oh, cool. All right, Joel, we are out of time here. But before you go, tell us, how can people get a hold of you? How can they visit your store? What's the info?
Oh, sure. We're right here in Battle Creek. We're on Capitol Avenue. We're at 539 Capitol Avenue Southwest. You can give us a call at 269-968-4229. That's 269-968-4CCW. And then also you can visit us online at www.freedomfirearms.biz, B-I-Z, freedomfirearms.biz. And always happy to have you, always happy to serve. Love having people come down here to the indoor range. It's starting to get cold and nasty outside, so come on down and put a few rounds down range. and absolutely take advantage of any training that we can provide you with if you don't happen to be up in Skip's area, because I try not to cross over there. If you're up in Skip's area, make sure you go see Skip. But if you're down here in my area, come down and see me.
Awesome. Joel, you've been great. We'll have you on again. Maybe we'll have you on after the election, and we can maybe do a post-game analysis.
I sure hope I'm not having to eat crow.
Me too. All right, Joel, thanks for being on Home Defense Show.
Always a pleasure. Thanks, Skip.
Okay, folks, we got a 2-minute break here. Go on out and check out Freedom Firearms on Capitol Avenue in Battle Creek, Michigan. And then, of course, check out firearmslegal.com/Midwest Tactical and then elitefirearms.us. When we come back in segment 4, I will be giving you the wrap-up. This is Skip Coryell on Home Defense Show. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back.
Welcome to my dad's Home Defense Radio show. You're gonna love it.
Hey folks, I want to tell you about my book, Civilian Combat, the Concealed Carry Book. More and more people across the country are seeing the dangers in society and are deciding to carry concealed to protect themselves and their families. My new book lays it out step by step. It'll teach you how to protect and defend the ones you love. Get the benefit of 17 years of teaching experience and a lifetime of training for this important role in society and in your family. You can get Civilian Combat real easy. Just go to Amazon.com, search on Skip Coryell Civilian Combat, and it'll pop right up there. Don't put it off any longer. Get Civilian Combat, the Concealed Carry Book by yours truly, Skip Coryell.
This is Colonel Danny Gillum. I host Frontlines of Freedom, a weekly syndicated military talk radio show. One of my co-hosts is Skip Coryell, the host of this show. We cover things that impact military and veteran communities, and we do it from the veteran's perspective. The show is broadcast across the nation and is also available as a podcast on our website, frontlinesoffreedom.com. Please join Skip and me weekly on Frontlines of Freedom.
This is Skip Coryell from the Home Defense Show, and I want you to have the very best handgun that money can buy. And that's why we recommend you visit Larry Jackson at Elite Firearms and Training. As a concealed carry instructor, I see people every week out on the range with guns they can't shoot properly because they didn't know what to buy. That will never happen at Elite Firearms and Training. Larry Jackson will personally fit you with your very own personal defense pistol. So call Larry Jackson today at 616-299-8715 or visit elitefirearms.us.
Skip, it's our Armed America time. Take it on, brother.
All of us here at Frontlines of Freedom want our listeners to get trained and get armed in that order. We fully support the right to keep and bear arms for all law-abiding families, and we encourage you to find out about the laws governing use of deadly force in your state and follow them to the letter. And of course, don't forget to follow the rules of safety and common sense whenever you're carrying a firearm to protect the ones you love. What's the story this week, Colonel?
Well, a man who lives in the Ballard neighborhood of Seattle was awakened at 4 a.m. one day in July. And by the way, this was before Seattle Mayor Jenny Durkan signed a law ordering firearms to be locked up when not in use. Well, a burglar broke into the mudroom of his home. The resident grabbed his handgun before investigating the source of the noise. The intruder was trying to get into the main part of the house, so the homeowner fired, shooting him in the stomach. He was later caught when the cohorts took him to a hospital for care.
Thanks, Colonel. In this particular scenario, I'd like to focus on firearm storage, especially in light of the Seattle law that requires firearms to be locked up when not in use. Of course, all us responsible gun owners already know and practice that concept, so there's really no need to legislate it. However, for those few out there who do not already lock up their guns when not in use, let's go over some of the ways to secure your firearm. First of all, when the gun is on your person, either in a holster or some other carrying device, it is considered secure and in use. Whether that's a holster or a fanny pack doesn't really matter. We're talking about an on-body carry method where you are in complete control of the gun simply because it is attached to you and follows you wherever you go. Here are some requirements I levy on all my gun safes. Number 1, it must be secure. The whole idea of locking the gun up is to keep it out of unauthorized hands. If the safe isn't sturdy enough to keep a kid from breaking into it, then get something different. You should buy the best quality gun safe you can afford. I've seen people run out and buy a $1,200 Kimber pistol and then lock it in a tin cash box from Walmart that cost only $9.95. Folks, Don't do this. Number 2, the gun safe must be in a location that makes it readily accessible to all authorized users. I stage my gun safes and guns on all levels of my home simply because you never know when the bad guy will invade you or where he will break into your home. It could be on the main floor or second floor or even in the basement. And last, you must be able to open your gun safe quickly and easily while under extreme stress. Having to remember a long digital combination or use a dial to open it is simply unacceptable. Even worse yet is needing a key to access the safe. First you have to find the key, then you have to insert it, and it just takes way too much time. Stick with a lit digital keypad or RFID technology or even biometric fingerprint opening methods, and you'll not be disappointed. The bottom line is you are responsible for the security of your gun, so get the best you can afford and keep it simple and keep it safe.
Gee, that makes sense, even from a Marine.
Okay, folks, welcome back to the Home Defense Show. It's your host, Skip Coryell. Boy, I always love having Joel Fulton on. He is like the easiest interview because basically you just wind him up ahead of the segment and then just let him go. And then when it's time for him to shut up, you just say, hey, Joel, we're out of time here, buddy. But I hate to stifle him because he says such good things. And I almost always agree with the guy. And I certainly agree with him on his choice of candidates, who he'll be voting for and who I will be voting for. Earlier in segment 1, we were talking about this latest mass shooter at the Pittsburgh synagogue, the Jew hater. And, before that, we talked about this airline pilot who got caught carrying a handgun in his briefcase. And I've just been thinking about that. And it's like, I can't help but think that we're screwing up here. It's like the guy goes out, he shoots, he kills 11 people, injures, I think, 6 others, including 4 police officers. And we give him every benefit of the doubt, allegedly this, and he's a suspect, and then he gets all these appeals. And, he might spend 10 years on death row, even if they seek the death penalty, which I think and hope they will do. But in the meantime, we got to feed this guy. We give him great care. He'll get television. He'll get workout rooms. He'll get his food served to him. It just grinds on me that we treat people like that in that way. And then, this poor pilot, and I'm assuming some things here. I'm assuming that, he was an honest guy, which, he had a CPL from Minnesota, so, he had to pass a background check, and he had a history of good work ethic and taking care of all of those people on the plane. We treat him like a criminal. Yeah, technically, he is a criminal because he broke the law, right? But that's a stupid law. It's a stupid, dumb, idiotic law that should not even exist. We are punishing the wrong people. And it's almost like we're enshrining these mass shooters because they get overnight fame. This guy, and I don't even want to say his name, but I can see his face.
Thank you for joining us this week on the Home Defense Show.
All over the internet.
Now,
it's
get out
all
there
over the
and
news.
protect
It's on
the
television.
ones you love.
This guy,
We'll see you next
if he
week with
got what he
more of the
deserved,
best in home defense.
it would have been a bullet in the
Have fun
head
storming the castle.
by one of those police officers. And I'm telling you right now, I teach church safety. It's one of the things I do for a living. And it's always baffled me, the Jewish race. It's baffled me why they continue to be diehard Democrats, why they continue to be diehard gun controllers, pacifists, when so many people want them to die. Yeah, even when I was a kid, I was reading, about the Warsaw Ghetto. And I didn't understand, as a 12-year-old, why in God's name didn't they rise up sooner? Why didn't they take up arms? Why didn't they fight? Why did they walk off to their deaths? Sometimes I think about that because I'm a Christian. And sometimes I think, it could happen to me. If I ever had to renounce my faith, I wouldn't do it. If I ever had to be martyred, I wouldn't do that either. I wouldn't renounce my faith, but I wouldn't walk up there proudly to a gallows and let someone hang me. I'd tackle them. I'd grab them. I'd bite them. I'd try and gouge their eyes out. They would have to kill me with a bullet because I would not go peacefully. I'm just not that way. And these Jews, they baffle me. And these are the Jews that are outside Israel, right? The ones in Israel, I think they get it. They understand that half the world wants them dead. And half the world won't be happy until they stop breathing. They're surrounded by millions of people who want to kill them. But these American Jews, the European Jews, they seem to be of a different breed. It's like they never figured it out. Go ahead and kill us. We will walk to the gallows like lambs to the slaughter. I don't get it. I don't understand it. I don't like it. And I want to encourage you to change. Okay, you've got to change. You've got to get that warrior mindset. And not all Jews are like that. I mean, a friend of mine, an Orthodox Jew, his name is Yehuda Remmer, and he wrote the book Safety On, An Introduction to Firearms for Children. And you can check that out on Amazon.com. I helped him publish it here at White Feather Press. Wonderful book. The guy's got the right attitude. Okay, he wouldn't march off willingly and let people shoot him. If they came to his synagogue, I'm sure he would fight. And you know what? Jews weren't always like that. Remember King David, Samson? Remember him? Remember how they fought so hard? My gosh, they were warriors at one time. But something is broken in the Jewish culture, at least for the expatriates, the ones outside of Israel. And I fear that it will continue. Anti-Semitism is on the rise, and it shows no indication of lessening. It looks like it's going to get worse. Okay, but that is my rant. That's what I think. So, hey, if you're a Jew, pass the word. It's time to take names and kick some ass. Okay, well, hey, we've got to get out there and elect the right people. If you don't, you're going to regret it. And all you pro-gun Democrats out there, hey, I'm telling you, it's time to wake up. Okay, you union guys, hey, my dad was in the UAW almost his whole life. I grew up in a UAW home. I'm telling you, now is the time. It's okay for you to vote for whoever is pro-gun. You can vote for a Republican. Like Joel said, the Teamsters here in Michigan, they're endorsing Republican candidates now. So don't feel like if you vote for a pro-gun candidate that you are somehow being disloyal to the union, because you're not. Okay? It's about your job. You want to keep your job, you want to keep your Second Amendment rights, it's a no-brainer. All right, we're about out of time here. Go out on Amazon.com, check out the Complete God Virus series, and get it all in one book. If you already have the other three, then just do a search on The Blind Man's Rage, and you can get that fourth and final book in the God Virus series. You're going to love it. But now it's time for me to go deer hunting. Okay, folks, until next week, remember your purpose in life is to find something greater than yourself and serve it. Always remember, God, family, country, in that order. It's important how you live, but it's equally important how you die. Your family and the ones you love need your protection, so train, always train, stay alert, stay alive. Until next week on the Home Defense Show, this is your host, Skip Coryell. God bless you, God bless your family, and God bless America.